are going to be covering off the Night Audit procedures as it pertains to RoomKey. So I'm going to start on our website here, www.roomkeypms.com. If we go to support in the upper right-hand corner, it's going to bring us to our support page. So this is where most of you would have gone to sign up for the webinars. On here, we're going to find all our videos and docs and how to contact us for support as well. And at this point, I'm going to go down to the RoomKey Night Audit documents once it loads. And under the Night Audit documents, we have the Night Audit manual and checklist. Okay, when I click on that, that's going to bring us to a PDF here. PDF, we're going to talk about a couple of things. So we make a couple of assumptions as far as Night Audit goes. The first assumption, let me make this a little bit bigger for your screen. The first assumption, the Night Auditor is already well-versed on key front office functionality. So reservations, check-ins, walk-ins, checkouts, etc. Night Audit shift runs similar to 11 o'clock to 7 a.m. Now, with our system is automatic. Okay, at 1 second after midnight, the next day's room and tax postings all happen, and the system automatically flips over to the next day. So there are other systems out there where you have to run an end of day to post the room charges, and that's what the Night Auditor does. For our system, we have a lot of hotels that don't actually have a Night Audit. In fact, their office may close at 6 p.m. or 8 p.m. for the evening and not open until the morning. Our system is set to run automatically. Okay, you do not have to run an end of day in our system. There are, however, some of the task list items that we'll be going through. Some of the items are time sensitive. I will talk about those and why they're time sensitive so you can make the best decision where they should be done if you don't have a Night Audit staff. If you don't have a Night Audit staff, please let your trainer know directly. So if your office closes at 8, 9, 10 p.m. and doesn't open until morning, there's just a couple of special things I want them to review with you. Okay, but I'm going to be going on the premise of it 11 to 7 during the training. Document does not review any interfaces. So for the RoomKey interfaces, you guys will be set up with training on your RoomKey interfaces. We always recommend that the Night Auditor is well versed on the interfaces because at times they are the only ones that are on property, especially if something goes wrong in the middle of the night. For the reports that are printed out, your manager will determine where they should go. So in our system, there is not an automatic batch report that happens at the end of day. There's over 100 reports in our system. You are not going to use them all. You're going to find the reports that work for your property and the ones that you're looking for, and then you can have Night Audit certainly print them out, but there's not an auto batch printout. But we will talk about the reports during the auditing process. And as a best practice, we recommend a rollover time of 3 a.m. Please ask your manager what your rollover time is. So, what is rollover time? I'm going to jump over to RoomKey. Actually, before I jump over to RoomKey, I'm just going to scroll down to page 2. Page 2 of this manual first talks out rollover period on the first 4 items. I'm going to talk about that in just a moment when we get to RoomKey. But then we have an item by item and then the page. On the screen sharing, just RoomKey. Okay, I've just been informed that my audio is breaking up a little bit. I just want to reconfirm if that has cleared up at this moment. Test, 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 test. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Great. Thank you, everyone. Okay, and please let me know if it does happen again. Okay, so when we get into RoomKey, I'm going to go to our arrival screen. So if I have any arrivals on the arrival screen, they're going to be an arrival up until 11:59:59 this evening. As of midnight, they are automatically going to go to the no-show screen. Okay, so just like Janice Smith and Drake McPhail here, they were due to arrive yesterday. At midnight, they would have automatically gone to the no-show screen. But what happens if Janice or Drake showed up at 12:30 in the morning or 1 a.m. in the morning? Well, we would want to be able to check them in to the previous day. Okay, so there is a function we have, and it's the rollover. If I go into System Configuration, Property, we're going to go to our Rollover tab in the middle of the screen here. Okay, now when you guys get in here, nothing will be set, so I would do rollover time, rollover allowed, rollover time of 3 a.m., post to previous day. All these charges are all going to be over on this side. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to take everything that is on the right-hand side, just bring it over. The only one that we don't bring over is the City Ledger transfer. Now in your system, it may be called direct bill if we switched it over for you. This is the only one that we don't have post. And the reason is it's a function. It's not a payment method. It is a function in our system. You probably wouldn't be using it until checkout time anyways. Okay, I'm going to click post. So essentially what this means is anything that I charge, including room charges, up until 3 a.m. will be posted to the previous day. This allows me to check someone in at 2 a.m. in the morning to the previous day. It actually lets me do it till 2:59:59 in the morning. As of 3 a.m., I can no longer check them into the previous day. So if you would like to change this to 2 a.m., you could even change it to 4 a.m. I've seen hotels go to 5 a.m. You just got to be careful about getting to the time where it starts to get into your checkouts in the morning and whatnot. You really want to have this cleared up because there are some functions that we need to do after the rollover time. As a best practice, we usually recommend 3 a.m., but if your hotel tends to get a lot of arrivals right up until 4 a.m., then you could do 4. Okay? Once this is set, we don't touch it. So we don't change it from night to night, what suits us. We decide what is our rollover time going forward, and that is what we want to stick with. Okay? So what that would allow me to do is it would allow me to go to the no-show screen, and it would allow me to check in Janice Smith or Drake McPhail right up until 3 a.m., the normal process. Okay, the rollover time does not stop the guest from going to from the arrival screen to the no-show. That still will happen at midnight, that they switch over to no-show screen. Just allows you to check them in until then. We can also do a walk-in up until 3 a.m. So if I click on walk-in, now again, if we pretend it's 1 a.m. in the morning, when we click walk-in, it's still going to be today's date. Okay? But what I can do is I can choose yesterday's date, the 21st. Say they're staying for one night. I'm going to click refresh. We're going to put them in a loft room. Find a clean room. Choose our rate. So everything thus far is the same on doing a walk-in. Okay. Now, if we click book, if it's after 3 a.m., we get this message. Rollover time has passed. This reservation can no longer be checked in. So if we ever get this, you're going to have to check them in to the current day after 3 o'clock. Okay? And same thing, let's say that Janice Smith showed up at like 3:45 in the morning, I would then have to change the reservation to arriving that new day. Okay, so ask your manager what the rollover time is set at. Managers, if you would like some help setting up that rollover time, please let your trainer know directly, or you can email myself as well from the meeting invite. Okay. Okay, next on the list is check departures before midnight. Now this seems like a pretty obvious thing. So if I go to my departure screen, we have Tanya White. Now at 11 o'clock at night, there should be no departures left in the system. But let's say that the afternoon shift and the evening shift, everyone missed it. Okay? Do not leave this as a departure. Okay? You either need to check the guest out or change the reservation. If they're still in the room, change the reservation and stay them over. Okay? But don't leave it as a departure. It's going to skew your reports, and it's going to skew your balancing. And we'll be talking about balancing later on today. So in this case, let's say we found out from the front desk agent, oh, I guess we forgot to check it out. So we have housekeeping check the room, no one's there, so we check the guest out. Okay, so before midnight, ensure there are no departures left in the system. Okay, next on the list is credit card reconciliation. Now, credit card reconciliation would be doing your batch out. So with the rollover time, remember that we set it up that any credit card transactions that we post up until midnight will post to the previous day. So what I would recommend is on your credit card machine, if there's a way to print out a report such as a pre-batch so you can double check the totals before 3 a.m., then you can get everything fixed in the system if there's a discrepancy before 3 a.m., and that just keeps the mistake and the fix all on this same day. So let me show you here. What we would do, I would go into Reports, Financial, Transaction Register Balance, Detail with Guest Name. Now this report you're going to see over and over again in today's training. I went through it in training a couple of times. Basically it shows every transaction that was done in a particular day. So perhaps around 2 a.m., 2:30 in the morning, I'm going to run this report. And I'm going to run this, typically I would do it for yesterday because it's after midnight, right? In this case, I'm actually going to go back to the last day that we did front office, which was the 15th. So this was one of the webinars that we did. So we'll pretend it's the 16th. I'm going back to the 15th. Now, transaction register balance, the way it's organized, it has all the other charges. It'll have the res ID, room and folio, the clerk, date, reference, amount, tax, total, and guest. So we organize it. Here's Alex Pub, so here's all the reservations, room numbers, and guests that had Alex Pub charges. I'm going to go down further. I'm going to go to page 2 so I can click next page up top, and then we get into payments. I'm going to click this page again, and this is what I'm interested in. The MasterCards are processed here, and the Visas. So if I go over to my credit card machine, and I run a batch report, and it shows me that MasterCard is $70.50, but let's say it shows Visa is $21.17.37, I know something is wrong. So now I need to go through each transaction that was done and double check the postings. So for example, let's say that this Visa here, the 7/28/15, maybe on the credit card machine, the agent posted it as 7/18/15, so they made the mistake. Okay, so it's up to Night Audit to fix that credit card before the batch goes through. Now, on that note, we did talk about in training making each agent responsible for their own credit card slips. So this leads into the next, the credit card batch out and the clerk audits that are on the Night Audit checklist kind of go hand in hand. So if you remember from training, we said that if I go into reports, cashier, clerk detail, this is going to be under my login, right? Because I'm under RS admin, but each one of you is going to have your own login. And you would run this at the end of your shift, and it would show you all the credit cards that you did that day. You would then double check your own credit card slips to make sure they're good. Why leave it for Night Audit, right? Try to get each agent responsible for your own. Again, your manager is going to let you know what they would like to do, okay? So then for the Night Auditor, what they're going to do is reports, cashier, they're going to do their own audit. The Night Auditor is actually going to have 2 audits throughout their shift. From 11 p.m. until 2:59 in the morning, if they did any transactions, they would do 1 audit. And then from 3 a.m. until 7 a.m., they would also do an audit if they had any transactions. They would then take all the audits from the day. So they take their audit, Bob's audit, Sarah's audit, and they would do all clerk summary. All clerk summary is going to show all transactions, all credit cards and payments that were done that day. So I print this out. I take the 3 or 4 audits that were done that day, stapler paper, clip it together, put it into the brown manila envelope, mark the date on it, probably goes into a box in accounting and sits there for the next 7 years collecting dust in case we get audited. Or goes into a box, and if a guest calls up, a month later and says, hey, I'm disputing a charge, we can go back, find the clerk who checked them out, find their audit, find the credit card slip, and find the guest signature there, and that helps with those disputes. So by keeping those credit card slips organized for the day, it's just going to help you guys out, or help accounting out for sure. Okay, so even on here, it's giving me my totals, the total MasterCard and total Visa as well. Okay, for those of you who are getting the Shift 4 interface, there is going to be one more, or Shift 4 or Sage Payment. Under Reports, Online Processing, there's going to be another report that says Credit Card Transactions. You will be given direct training on the Shift 4 or Sage Payment interface with your property, so not to worry. Okay, but I'm just throwing it out there now about the auditing process. Okay, so 2:30 in the morning, I double check my credit cards, all are well. 3 a.m. rolls around, we didn't do any transactions. In that half an hour, we run the batch, all is well, and we move on. Okay, next on the list is our phone call audit. So this would be for hotels that charge for long-distance phone calls. So again, I'm going to go into Reports, Financial, Transaction Register Balance, Detail with Guest Name. We would run this, again, we're pretending today is the 16th, so I'm running it for the 15th. Okay, and here, if I go down under Other Charges, here we see phone calls, and we see a total of $20 that was posted. Now, there's been some transferring and stuff that have happened. But basically, we're going to take the call accounting report, and we're going to compare what was posted in RoomKey to make sure they match. Now, this is for hotels that manually post phone calls. So whenever someone makes a long-distance phone call in a room, does a printer go off at your front desk and the agent manually posts it? Well, we want to make sure, are the agent posting it to the right room? And are they posting the right amounts? And that's what Night Audit is double checking. If you are getting an interface with us to a call accounting system, you're going to use a different report. And that is Reports, Audits, Phone Call Log. Okay? This one is all calls report, so even front desk or administrative phone calls will show up here, and not posted calls will show everything that did not post to a guest room. So there are two levels of audit that people do whenever they have an interface with us. Step one, they go to All Calls Report. They would print this for the previous day. And it says there are no records to report. So if you have an interface and you see this, you know something is wrong with the interface. Okay, because again, administrative phone calls are going to show up. That would mean that no one from the hotel did any phone calls that day, even from the front desk or sales. So at that point, you're going to want to reset the interface. 99% of the times, if phone calls are not flowing through into RoomKey, a reset of the interface is going to fix the issue. Okay. The second level would be we actually print out the report, and at the bottom it would have a total of $20 that we did. We go to our call accounting system, print out the report from the call accounting, and match the two. So if it says $20 in RoomKey, it should say $20 on the call accounting report. So it just depends on how thorough your manager would like you to be on that. Okay, next on the list is our movie postings audit. So if you have a movie system like On Demand or LodgeNet, every time someone watches a movie in the room, again, there might be a printer that goes off, or perhaps you have a task item on your task list that each agent will go in and run the report once per shift and manually post the movies to the system. So again, we would go to reports, financial, transaction registered balance, detail with guest name, right? We would look at all the movie postings. We would print from our movie system, LodgeNet or On Demand, the movies that were watched that day, and they would compare it to RoomKey to make sure that the right room number it was posted to and the right amount was posted to. This also covers our next one, our point of sale. So if you have a restaurant where people can charge to a guest room, okay, so if you're manual, when someone in the restaurant eats and the agent puts in the micros as micros or Squirrel or PosiTouch, whatever you may have, and they put charge to room, then the server brings the bill over to the front desk agent posts it to the correct room and the right amount. Again, RoomKey is going to, or the Night Auditor is going to get the report from the restaurant at the end of the night. They're going to compare it to what was posted in RoomKey, double checking the amounts and double checking the guest name that was signed or printed and the room number that was sent to. Okay. If you guys are getting the point of sale POS interface with us, you'll know when the interface is down right away, because if someone from the restaurant goes to charge a bill to a guest room, they'll get an error message. And again, the interface, resetting the interface, normally just restarting the interface computer or restarting the interface is going to solve the issue 99% of the time. Okay. Now, all of those things, when do we do these items? Again, remember that as of 3 a.m., if that's your rollover time, we can post charges to the previous day up until 3 a.m. So if we can double check all these before 3 a.m. and fix them, that means that the mistake and the fix are all done in the same day. If you fix it after 3 a.m., it's still good that we're catching it, but it just means that you're going to be out on one day and then fix the next day. So for accounting side, it's just better if the fixes are done in the same day. Okay, next on the list is check credit limits. This is mainly for hotels out there that take authorizations on check-in. If you take full deposit or charge for the whole stay on check-in, the process is a little bit different. I would like you to speak with your trainer directly on that notion. Okay, so let's go to in-house. Dale Eastman. So when Dale Eastman was checked in, okay, he's staying for 3 nights. The total balance at the end of the stay will be $333. His credit limit is $333. That's how much of an authorization we took on his card. If I go to post charges and I do a photocopies for $10, watch what happens to the credit limit. It now goes to negative $10, right? Because we're only holding $333, but now the total charges we're projecting with once the 2 other room charges go on is $343. Okay, I'm going to go to Janice Smith. And we're going to do Alex Pub. Do 55 on that one. So she'll go to negative 55. So the report we want to run is reports, occupancy, credit limits exceeded. This will show me room 101, room 110. Dale Eastman is over $10, and Janice Smith is over $55. Now, a lot of hotels will actually do the credit limits report once per shift. So usually after breakfast, after lunch, after dinner, and then night audit finally in the evening we'll do it as well. Okay. Now some hotels will feel comfortable with waiting till checkout, because normally if we're holding $333 on the guy's credit card, when we try to settle it for $343, it will probably go through. Okay. And same thing with the $55. Maybe we will leave it because it will probably go through for another $55. But your manager is going to let you know what is the threshold. Okay. So what we would do is, if we did not want to leave this till checkout, we would reauthorize more on their credit card. So if you guys are manual, you would take the credit card slip and you would add to the original authorization that you have, if there's a way to do that on your credit card machine. Okay. So to up the limit, I will go into the guest here. So if I go to Janice Smith, I'm going to go to Transactions, Guest Folio Credit Limit. I'm going to add $55 and click Post. Now we can see her available credit goes to 0. I would then go to Dale Eastman, Transactions, Guest Folio Credit Limit. Do $10. For those of you who have Shift 4 or Sage Payments, when you do this, you click Post, you're going to get the interface window pop up. And RoomKey is going to add to the original authorization that they had. Okay. Now, for those hotels that take more than room and tax on check-in, so bear with me for a moment. Okay, so Frank Jensen here, his total charges at the end of the stay is going to be $1021.20. The credit limit is $1041.20 because we did an extra $20 upon check-in of authorization. Okay, so let's say that he goes to Alex Pub. And spends $19.99. So his available credit is now 1 penny. So if I go to Reports, Occupancy, if you were to run credit limits exceeded, he would not even show up, right? Because technically he is under the available credit. So for hotels that take additional upon check-in, I would actually recommend running the credit limits report, because then it shows everyone in-house and it shows you if anyone is close to their limit. So let's say all these guys were 20, 20, 20, 20, but this guy has 1 penny left. I can see he's staying till the 25th, so he's staying for 3 more days. He's probably going to use up a penny, if not do some more. So again, at that point, I would go to the guest, or go to the guest room in RoomKey, click on Transaction Guest Folio Credit Limit, and I want that penny, and I want another $20, so I might do it for $20.01. Oh, sorry, we were over a penny, or had a penny left, so I would have done it for $19.99, let's say. Okay, so now I have $20.02 additional. Again, speak to your managers on what their threshold is on how comfortable they are with what credit limit will be exceeded, what procedure they would like you to do. Next is the bucket check. So if I go to Reports, Audits, Room Audit. A room audit is a snapshot of everyone that is currently in-house at that time. Now by bucket, the bucket is at the front desk. It's where your registration cards are. Okay. We usually recommend this process be done after all checkouts and then after all check-ins. So your afternoon shift can run this. Some hotels will actually have each shift run this as well. Okay, so all we're doing, I go to room 101, has Dale Eastman. I look in the bucket, he's there. Tom Sizemore, Terry Flynn. Let's say I get to room 104, it says vacant, but there's a reg card. The reg card is for a guest that checked out today. So I pull the reg card, file it away wherever I file it. We also may find that, you know, Daniel Murphy is in room 106, but he's in the 107 slot, so maybe there was a room change and someone forgot to move the reg card. And why that's important, if you guys ever lose power, your bucket is the only way of knowing which rooms are actually occupied, right? So it's a quick glance of occupied rooms. The other thing we can look at is payment method. So if I see Visa, all this, what I'm flagging are cash paying guests. Here we have Aaron June, but see how the balance due is negative $222. That means that they currently have a credit on account. So this one I'm okay with. And we can even see they have a payment. But if I go down further, on Peter Griffin, we see cash paying, and he has a balance due of $719.28. This would raise a red flag. So I'm going to go to room 126. I'm going to see what's going on. So I go to 126. And now that I see the balance owing of $919.08, I'm actually not concerned. And why I'm not concerned is I now can see that the room and tax, oops, let's go to the now, 719.28. I can see that the room and tax postings are on Folio 8. And as we know, when room and tax is on Folio 8, it means the guest is not paying for it. We can see here the City Ledger transfer button, so it's going to be direct billed. If I go over to info, I can see this guest is with IBM. Okay, so in this case, I'm not worried about that. But again, it's just something to, good to get into the habit of checking. Okay, next is Unbalance Folios. Unbalance Folios, we recommend that you double check these before 3 a.m. and try to get them fixed before 3 a.m. So maybe you want to run it around, again, 2:30 in the morning. We even recommend you could have this run at the end of each shift. Okay. So what is an unbalanced folio? Let's say that we have a guest. So I'm going to make a new reservation for a future date. So guest calls up, wants to make a booking for June 18th for one night. And it happens to be our advance purchase. Now the deal with the advance purchase is that they have to prepay for the stay. So if I do a deposit on there of $149.85, I'm getting that from the total up top here. Okay, I'm going to click OK. So now we have a reservation with a deposit on it. Now let's say it is, a week later, and we get a phone call from Ms. Upton and she would like to cancel her reservation. So I'm the agent working the front desk. I go into search, advanced search, I'm going to clear the last search I did. Search for Upton. And there we find the reservation for Miss Upton. So I say, Miss Upton, the reservation is for June 18th. She says, yes. I'm going to cancel. Here I would ask Miss Upton the reason she's canceling. Okay, so let's say she decided to stay at the Marriott. Now notice that the cancel and charge button is grayed out, right? Because we already, this is well outside our 24-hour cancellation policy that I have at my hotel. Again, you guys may have 48 or 72 or whatever. Now you can also see here we have a deposit total. Okay, but let's say that the agent did not see this. So they go to cancel the reservation. So because we're not charging, RoomKey says, okay, I'm going to give that $149.85 back on the credit card. So what you should do, go over to the credit card machine, do it as a credit sale or a refund sale or however you do it on your credit card machine. Put in the authorization and click OK Exit. But let's say I'm the agent at the front desk. I don't know what this is, so I just click Cancel or I click the red X instead. Do you want to print the cancellation confirmation? Yes. And even here, this should raise a red flag to me. Here I have a canceled reservation that has a negative deposit. This does not make sense. Okay? So what it is the agent canceled the reservation but left the deposit. Okay? On the accounting side, this does not make sense. Okay? But for whatever reason, they weren't exactly sure what they were doing. So that's the first type. The second type of unbalanced folio, bear with me just one moment to find an example here. So let's say that Drew Keel, okay, we're working the front desk, we get a phone call from Drew Keel, and he says there's a problem with his bill. So I go into search, advanced search, clear the last search I did, search for Keel, we find the reservation, I'm going to click OK to go to that reservation, and the guest says that when they're at the hotel, or they were quoted a price of $79. They didn't even look at the bill when they left to notice that they were charged the wrong thing. Okay, so now we need to do an adjustment of $6. Okay, and now we can see over on the right-hand side, we owe him $6.66. We have a negative balance, right? So what I should do is credit that back on the credit card. Let's say I'm the agent at the front desk, and I totally forget that step. Okay, so now if I go to Reports, Audits, Unbalance Folios, the Unbalance Folios, we run this in a little bit weird of a way. You actually run this for the past, or the date to will always be the day that you're currently in, but the date from will be 3 months ago. And the reason is we want to catch anyone that called up today and said, hey, I stayed with you a week ago and my bill was wrong. I stayed with you a month ago and my bill was wrong. I stayed with you 2 months ago and the bill was wrong. Right? You can actually go back a year on this report, but most times someone's not going to call up that day and say, hey, I stayed with you a year ago and my bill was wrong. Right? 3 to 6 months is the rule of thumb on this one. Okay, so I would print this out. Or I would just take note of the res IDs, 1503 and 1537, that I need to deal with. Okay, we're going to go into Search, Advanced Search, clear the last one I did. We're going to search for res ID 1537. Kate Upton, okay. So now I need to figure out what happened. Well, I can see the reservation was for the 18th. I can see it's canceled, and I can see it has a deposit. If I go into Operations Activity Log, type in the res ID, and click Show, This will show me everything that happened to a reservation. Not absolutely everything, but if they change the number of nights, change the date of arrival, the room type, the rate, anything like that is going to show in here. It's also going to show which clerk did it. Now, notice that we are getting orange down at the bottom. Now it's turning red. This activity log, it does take quite a while to run on a room. It will be addressed with my IT tech department, but it is currently a little bit slow. And the reason it's slow is it's not just looking for this reservation, it's actually looking in all areas of the system that this reservation could possibly touch. So there are a lot of areas it needs to check. Okay, so here I see the res ID of 1537, and here I can see when the reservation was made, who made it, the dates it was done for, then I can see who canceled it. So this is why if you run this at the end of each shift, then you can catch the person before they go home. If Night Audit is running this at 2 in the morning, it's not like they're going to give a call to, let's say that was Tracy. I'm not going to call Tracy at 2 in the morning. Hey, Tracy, what did you do to res ID 1537? So it's not a bad idea to get each shift to run this. Okay? So once we kind of figure out who did it, talk to them, or at least they find out themselves they left it, then we can decide what we're going to do. And the correct thing here is we're either going to post a charge against it, but because this is well outside our cancellation policy, we would credit the money back. So I'm going to go to post payment. We're going to do the negative amount that we should have did before. I go to my credit card machine, type in the number, do a credit sale, put in an authorization, and click OK. Okay. The other reservation, I would search, clear, and I would search for res ID 1503. Click OK. This one I can see, okay, here is a room charge. Okay, it may not be exactly obvious, again, what happened. I can see that the balance is 66. I can see it's a checked out reservation. Now what you need to know is whenever you check out a reservation, okay, the balance has to be 0. You cannot check out a room without the balance being 0. So I know that this happened after checkout. So again, I would go to Operations Activity Log. I would put in the res ID here, 1503. 1503, I would click Show and find out who did that adjustment after checkout. Because this does take a while, I'm not going to do this for the sake of today. Okay, to bring this back in balance, I will click Post Payment, and I'll give the 666 back on the guy's credit card. Okay, these are rare situations that happen, but we can have that checked at the end of each shift. Now, for the next item on the list, I'm actually going to go over to the document. So you guys are going to go to the meeting screen momentarily. Okay, and this function is called essential balancing. As close to rollover time as possible. So if our rollover time is 3 a.m., we want to do this at 3:05, 3:06, 3:30, something like that. So again, those hotels out there that are on the line that don't have a night audit, you want to discuss with your manager what is the, or with your trainer, what's the best process for you here. Now, I'm going to scroll down to page 51. I do know that when I scroll, it's going to cut my phone out. So I'm actually going to stop talking as I scroll down here. Okay, so here, this is called essential accounting balancing. Other systems call this trial balance. So what it is in our system there are three main accounts: AR Guest, AR City, and Deposit Holdings. Every single transaction that gets posted in the system must hit one of those three accounts. If those three accounts are in balance, the whole system is in balance. There are 5 reports that are part of essential balancing. Okay, we're running these all pretty much for the previous day. There's one exception. So daily balances for in-house guests, daily balances for city accounts, both get run for the previous day. Journal entry for the previous day, and accounts receivable reconciliation report for the previous day. These 4 reports, as of 3 a.m., they become archived and do not change after that time. Number 3, this report, reservations with deposits, this is a living, breathing report, and it can change from second to second. So if you were to check someone in that had a deposit, this report would change. If you were to take a new reservation and put a deposit on it, this report would change. So this report, because it's living and breathing second to second, that's why this whole process becomes time sensitive, because the best thing to do is, because these are archived right at 3 a.m., then try to run this report right at 3 a.m. to compare it to. So why I point that out is, if perhaps you are late on doing the essential balancing, and you did take a new reservation that had a $200 deposit, well, you're going to be out by $200 on the essential balancing. But that's okay, because you know what it is. It's for that reservation that you just took. And again, at 3 in the morning, Night Audit probably is not going to get many reservations or do any check-ins at that time that have a deposit. As far as the training on this goes today, I'm going to point out to you that this document is very descriptive in this process. I'm going to leave it to you guys to go through this document on this process. Basically, I show you how to run each report. The only report I'm going to show is one weird one. So like I said, the reports, audits, daily balances for in-house guests, we run for yesterday. Daily balances for city accounts, we run for yesterday. Financial accounts receivable reconciliation report, again, we run that for yesterday. And journal entry, we run this for yesterday. So the one that's weird is the deposit management report. We do reservations with deposits. We leave the date of today. Now the end date is how far into the future do we take reservations. So if you click in the middle, see how it goes out to months, click again, it goes out to years. I don't know how far into the future we have a reservation for. So I'm going to go to 2020. That's 6 years. There's no chance we have a reservation in 2020, but this just lets me know that, you know, I'm covering my base because I'm going as far into the future here. Okay, I click OK, and this shows me every single reservation that has a deposit on it. Okay, so if we have $861 in deposit reservations, that has to match our advanced deposit ledger. Okay, for those of you who take advanced deposits on reservations, this process will change just a little bit. So again, I want you to talk directly with your trainer on that, and they'll go through a couple of special things for you on this balancing. Okay. Again, I'm going to scroll without talking here. Okay, so once we get all the reports printed out, we do our balance checks. Here we're checking our accounts receivable guests to our daily balances for in-house guests. So this shows every single guest that was in-house. Here we have the balance out column, so the total balance out for all the guests that are in-house as of last night should match our AR guest ledger at the end of the night. As a side note here, if you're Night Auditor, if you feel more comfortable with accounting double-checking this, I would at least get your Night Audit again to print out these reports as close to after 3 a.m. as possible so that we're getting our most accurate reports. Balance check 2. Okay, we're double-checking the total balance out. And then we're checking our deposit ledger as well. Now, if we get to a point, test. If we get to a point where the reports do not match, step 1, ensure there are no unbalanced folios. So that's why I'm telling you, get the unbalanced folios done before 3 a.m. Again, even have each shift check the unbalanced folios. Ensure there are no overstayed reservations. What's an overstayed reservation? That's a guest that was not checked out of the room and left as a departure. Ensure there are no no-shows left with a balance. Okay, so a no-show with a balance would be if you had a reservation that had a deposit arriving today and they were a no-show, whatever deposit is on that no-show, that's what it's going to look like your balancing is out by. Now, on the Night Audit document, we recommend that you deal with no-shows after the essential balancing. If your hotel does take deposits on all reservations, we actually recommend looking at no-shows before the rollover time. Okay, and hotels will deal with no-shows differently. So we're going to talk about no-shows in just a bit, but it may change a little bit when you do it based on if you take deposits or not. Okay, if it's not one of those 3, number 4, determine the amount the reports differ by and which accounts they affect. Once you determine the amount of the discrepancy in step 4, look at the transaction register balance. So if you can see if you can find a transaction. So here's the thing. The essential balancing must be done daily. Okay? So if on Monday we're in balance, Tuesday we're in balance, Wednesday you're out of balance, that tells you in the past 24 hours there was 1, 2, or 10 transactions, who knows, that were done that threw you out of balance. Typically it's 1 transaction done that throws you out of balance. You should be able to find that on the transaction register balance. If not, you're going to give us a call. Now, for Night Audit, this is not an emergency support call. Our office is open Monday to Friday from 4 a.m. Pacific time until 5 p.m. Pacific time. So if you guys go out of balance, you find it, you can't figure out what it is, give it to your manager the next day and have them give us a call. But again, 4 a.m. Pacific time, depending on your time zone, that may work out for you anyways, that you're able to call. Okay? We're going to help you find the mistake and help you fix it and move on. Okay? Now, if you call us and you say that you're out of balance and we find out that you have not done the essential balancing for a month, there is possibility that you're going to be charged for us helping you find it. We have no special way of finding it. That means that we need to go through a whole month's worth of transactions to find out what happened that threw you out. Okay, so that could be a needle in the haystack, as you may have 10,000 transactions in a month period, right? So just keep on it day per day. And again, if you go out in one day you can't find it, we're going to help you find it, get you fixed, and we move on. Okay? Again, if you guys go out on a Saturday, we are closed on Saturdays and Sundays. So again, just give us a call on Monday or have your manager call us. Help you find it, get back in balance, and move on. Okay, you're going to go back to the meeting screen for a moment. And there we go. Okay, so next on the list is deal with no-shows. So I'm going to go to our no-shows, and I have two. Okay, I have Janice Smith. So Janice Smith, I'm going to click on cancel. I'm going to choose no-show as my reason. And technically, I should cancel and charge. However, let's say Janice Smith was a regular of ours and we didn't want to charge them. We could just click cancel res without charging. But otherwise, we should be charging for no-shows. Now, I will say that some hotels, say the guest was staying for 10 nights, they may change the reservation to arriving the new day and bring it down to 9 nights. Again, your manager will talk to you about how to deal with no-shows. Some other systems will also automatically cancel no-shows. Our system does not. And it's for that reason we just talked about, because some hotels will actually still hold the room just in case the guy is going to show up the next day or even the next day. So you want to make sure you cancel it, because say this reservation was for 10 nights, it would actually be holding for all 10 nights. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to cancel. I'm going to choose my reason is no-show. I'm going to click on cancel and charge. That will bring up my credit card slip. So I go over to the credit card machine, put in the number, put in the amount. I get an authorization number. I put in here. I click OK, exit. Do you want to print the cancellation confirmation? I can say yes, and that will show me that I have charged the guest here. So essentially what we did in that one step. If I go to the folio, I see cancellation fee, and I see payment MasterCard. That's what we did. Okay, I'm going to go to no-shows, Drake McPhail. I'm going to cancel. Oh, actually, before you cancel, just on guest info, make sure they have a credit card. Because if this was a non-guaranteed reservation, obviously I would just cancel it if we don't have a credit card on file. So I do have a credit card on file. I'm going to cancel. I'm going to choose no-show. Okay, I click on cancel and charge. We go over to the credit card machine. We type in the number, put in the amount, and it comes up declined. So at that time, I'm not going to post this payment because it's not going to go through, so I click cancel. Do you want to print the cancellation confirmation? I'm going to say no. So there's one more step that you need to do. I'm going to go to the folio, and because we used that cancel and charge function, RoomKey posted the cancellation fee and was waiting for the payment of Visa. But because the Visa didn't go through, I'm actually going to reverse off this cancellation fee. So I reverse, and the reason, credit card declined. Now, your manager or accounting may then call the guest and try to get another credit card or get payment from the guest, but as far as you're concerned at this point, the credit card is declined and we can't charge for it. So we bring the balance to 0 and we move on. Okay, next in the system, if I go into Operations Inventory Calendar, this inventory calendar shows me what rooms I have available, or in fact if I'm oversold at any point. So if I go into Operations Verify Calendar, Verify Calendar is going to reset this calendar. Now if I try to run this for 3 months, RoomKey will say maximum range for this report is 31 days. So you can only do this a month at a time. We recommend at least doing this for a month every night. So I'd run it from today till the 21st. Now some hotels will actually run this for the next 3 months, so you would actually have to do this 3 separate times. Okay? In this case, if I just run it for the next month and click OK, I'm going to get this message. Calendar was verified and no changes were needed. What RoomKey does is, in that month period, it resets everything to 0, and then it recounts all the reservations to make sure your inventory calendar is in balance. If you see calendar was verified, changes were needed, calendar is now up to date, you're going to want to go to the inventory calendar for that range you just did and see if there are any negatives that you need to fix. Now, I want to be clear on something. It's extremely difficult for this inventory calendar to go out of balance because we understand how important it is that this is accurate because this is what you're selling the guests based on. So it is extremely rare that this goes out. But it's computers, there's humans, and those two mixing together, stuff can happen. So in this example, let's say that this was the day and I see now a negative in a deluxe room. I'm going to double click on the negative one. That will show me an inventory detail for all rooms that day, and I see 10 rooms left in block under a test reservation, or a test group rather. If there was 10 separate reservations, so let me find another day where there's an actual reservation. So I'll go to the 30th. If I double click on the 8th, there I can see we have Doug Kilmore reservation. We'll even go back here to the SNSL, double click, and here's all the reservations, right? These are all in-house. So what I got to decide is, where am I going to move this one to? So I'd probably go into the block and end up giving them a loft room. Okay, again, I don't want you to get nervous. It's very rare that this can go out. Almost next to impossible that the verify calendar will result in anything, but there are no changes that were needed. Okay, next on the list is room assignment. I'm not going to review that because we did review that in training, but if you're looking for the instructions on the room assignment calendar that I did in the front office webinars, that's where you'll find it on this document. Okay. Next on the document is reports. Now, reports is a tricky one. Again, I've told you that there's over 100 reports in the system. You're not going to print them all. There's certain reports that certain hotels want and represented in a different way. Now, as far as the reports go, we do not do a webinar on reports. You're going to do a one-on-one training session with your trainer to find out which reports are going to work best for your hotel for the information that you're looking for. Now, as far as our statistical reports go, once the end of day comes as of 3 a.m., the report is then archived. It's not going to change after that time, so you can really print out these reports at any point for any past date. So again, double check with your manager to see which reports they want you to print out, and managers, you're going to work directly with your RoomKey trainer in a one-on-one session to see which reports are the best for your hotel and what you're looking for. Okay. The last thing on the checklist I have is Night Auditor, Clerk Audit, and Cash Drop. Now, the only reason I did that as a separate item on this list is, remember I told you technically the Night Auditor is working over 2 days in the system. So when they do a cashier audit, they would have from 11 p.m. at night until 2:59 in the morning. If they did any credit cards or cash payments, they would have to do one audit. Then if they did anything from 3 a.m. until 7 a.m., they would have to do a second audit. So that's the only reason I split that out on that document and talk about it, is because the Night Auditor does work over 2 days. Some of their systems will do shifts, like shift A, B, C. We do not have shifts. It's all based on the day that you're working. Okay, so that is it for Night Audit as it pertains to RoomKey. Of course, there are other functions that you may do, but as far as RoomKey goes, these are the functions. Okay, so I'm going to open up the floor for any questions that you may have. And I actually am going to cover off one miscellaneous area. I'm going to go to Front Desk. I'm going to log out. Okay, so here we have the login screen, and you're going to see this Smart Files backup. So with RoomKey, if you lose internet access, you're going to lose access to our data server, which means that you won't be able to log into RoomKey. So the first thing you want to do, if you ever lose your internet, double check your router and double check your modem. For all front desk agents, so managers and all front desk agents, you have to know where the router is at your front desk for your front desk computers. Okay, in all our troubleshooting documents, if there's ever any access to RoomKey problems that you're having, the first thing we're going to tell you to do is reset the router. 95% of the times, resetting the router will reestablish your connection to our data server, and you move on. So even if you do have internet connection, but you don't have access to our server, it's because we are a secure server connection, okay? And that's handled through your router. So you could be going from, let's say that you were in Florida. It could be jumping from Florida up to New York, down to New Jersey, over to Nova Scotia, over to Alberta, then to Montreal, then to Ottawa, and then the final resting place of our server. So if one computer or one node goes down in that route to our server, it can affect you. So it's not only your computers there, it's the route that's taken to our data server. When you reset the router, it resets the route back to our server. So you always start with that. If you call us, that's the first thing the support is going to say. If you don't have access to that, there's nothing we can do on our side. Okay, you have to be able to reset the router. Everyone at the front desk, or at least someone on property at the time, has to be able to have access to that router to reset it. Now, if your internet is down altogether, okay, so you just have no internet at all, you have no access. So even resetting the router is not going to do anything. This Smart Files backup happens every 20 minutes on every computer. So you always want to be logged in to at least one computer at the front desk. If you're not logged in, the Smart Files backup is not happening. So night auditors, sometimes it gets slower and they're not logged into the system. Always have at least one computer that's logged in. So if I go to Smart Files backup, here we have arrivals, departures, in-house, res, inventory, housekeeping, show as grid. So if I click on my arrivals, that would just give me, I don't have any departures. No. In-house. There we go. If I click on in-house, this just gives me a report of all the people that were in-house. I can click on the little printer, and now I have a paper copy of all my people in-house. Okay. Reservations. Sorry, give me a moment to let it catch up. The reservations one will only show for the next couple of weeks. We can only go so far on this. Inventory. Again, inventory will only show you, okay, for the next couple of weeks. So if someone called up, said, hey, I'd like to make a reservation for May 1st, at least you could say, yes, I have the availability, but my system is down. I'm going to have to call you back. Okay, housekeeper will give you the status of the rooms at the time that the system went down, basically your housekeeping report. And then show as grid. this is very useful. And what I like about this is, here it gives me all my people in-house. I can reorganize by room number, by guest, date in, date out, so we get to function a little bit here. These notes here, if I go to Terry Flynn and double-click on that note, I can see the res note that was attached to the reservation. Okay. The other nice thing is, let's say it's the morning and the internet is down. So if I go to departures, I don't have any, so let's go back to in-house. So let's pretend this was departures. You can actually click on a guest, and over here, see where we have guest folio? Now, it's still going to be showing that he has a balance owing, but at least we're able to print out a copy of the bill and give them something as they're walking out the door. Okay, it's not going to be settled once again, but at least they're walking with something out the door. Then you can say, Mr. Eastman, would you like that settled to your credit card when we're back up and running, and we'll send you another copy of the bill. Okay, so very important that you stay logged in to one of the front desk computers at all times so that this backup is happening. Okay, it's happening on every computer every 20 minutes, but saves to the local drive of that computer. So it could be different on each computer. So, okay, so that's all I want to show you. So I'm going to log back into RoomKey. So you guys are going to go back to the meeting screen. I'm actually going to stop the recording.